Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tommy here, and I am a Latino trans man living in Florida. Today, topic of conversation is going to be a little bit about what's going on and why today is such a special day. One, um, did my first IVF exam. Um, it wasn't too crazy. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't the very most pleasant thing. It was very expensive. And so, yeah, I am trying to come up with ideas to to wrap some more money. Now, I work as an in-person personal trainer, and that's been doing pretty good for me. Um, it's doing really good actually. I just got two new prospects for this month, but then after that, I'm capped out of how much time I can spend with people. And I also don't want to train any more clients because I'm finding a hard time getting time to A, train myself, and then B, I sleep, which is important. If everything goes the way it's supposed to, then my first client will now be at 5 a.m. in the morning, and um, I'll be training from like 5 a.m. in the morning on Tuesdays to about 1 p.m. and then again from 5 p.m. to 8:30, 9:30 at night. It's a pretty full schedule for a trainer. And so now my next goal is to start coming up with training products. Well, I didn't realize that my chain was on like that. Sorry. Um, I noticed these things. Um, Training clients and try to do some other things that will continue to scale my business and make income and stuff like that. And so fingers crossed because I'm gonna be having a family, so making money for one is easy, but making money for several houses is the goal for myself. I always say that I'm the man of two houses. I want to be able to take care of my mom, and since my mom is I'm the only child. My mom gets older, I want to be able to help her. That's really important to me, and I also want to be able to be the kind of person that my family can depend on. So, with that being said, that just means that you really have to work on your skills as a business person, as a person. So, fingers crossed. And prayer said, the other thing that I want to talk to you about today is my sober anniversary, and thank God for Facebook. It always tells me the timeline because I honestly don't know it very well. Um, so my sobriety date is March 13th of 2011, I believe, 2011, and I am, according to the counters and stuff like that, I am 12 years sober. Um, I lost count really after like 6, 7 years. I started getting confused, to be quite honest with you. Um, and I wanted to talk to you about that. And this video is going to be a little long because it's going to have a lot of my personal story in it, and I'm like 40 something years old. So there's a lot to say. But I got sober after my first year of transitioning. That was when it was. Um, Actually, no, I'm lying to you. I started transitioning 2008. So it's been a few years. I was in and out of sobriety. I think I had tried it before and failed. And then, now what happened was I was getting really depressed, right? I was getting really depressed and having like outbursts of emotional outbursts in my car, mainly in private. Like no one ever saw this stuff. Um, and my emotional well-being was harder to take care of. And so I was kind of confused because genuinely I consider myself a happy person. Um, and I consider myself like positive, so why was I having these issues, right? So there were a couple of things in my life that were going on, um, but they weren't supposed to cause that, at least not in my head. So I went to my therapist, and my therapist told me that I needed to stay sober for 6 months to a year for her to be able to figure out if I had some kind of depression. And when I couldn't do that, and I could not do that, I knew I had a problem. And the problem needed fixing, and that I wasn't necessarily ready to quit. This wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so done. Like, no, I was trying to figure out if I could find an easier, softer way to continue, right? And then I couldn't, and so I started to take my journey into sobriety. I feel like my story is important for other trans people, not for straight people. It's important for other trans people to see sober trans people because we are really underrepresented in the rooms of AA and NA for sure. Two, in the community as a whole, everything always revolves around parties and, like get-togethers with alcohol, sometimes with drugs. Like it's abundant because back in the day, that's how people used to get together. Used to go to the bar. Like there wasn't an out lifestyle. Um, and I wasn't necessarily the type of alcoholic, a type of addict that you would find like super drunk all the time or ever missed work or any of that. I didn't have one of those rock bottoms, I lost it all type moments. I had this emotional bottom, and then I had a couple of moments where I was like, my friends are further along than me, and I wonder what it is. I mean, I've changed so much because by then I was already bodybuilding. I was already doing. I had a good job. I had everything like on the surface. You know, I dated some really really good looking people. Let's put it that way. So on the surface, it looked like everything was cool. Uh, but inside, not so much. And I wasn't really connecting with people the way I should have been connecting. At least now I know that. I was afraid to do certain things, like go back to school. Um, I was the type of dude like you come into the party and stuff, and if you're by yourself, you're drinking, you're gonna drink with me, and we're gonna drink together, and I was gonna, you know, I had this like party persona, and then I had my other persona behind closed doors. As my drinking career uh, kept going, I had a few little whoa moments. Like the whoa moment where I got so drunk I couldn't find my car. That was a whoa moment. Um, my grandmother had died, and I started like really drinking and doing other things that I don't want to like talk about. But it just put it this way, I was finishing bottles of tequila by myself. By myself in my house by myself. And then I was looking at my behavior, and like it's almost like it was like as if I was dreaming, and I was looking at myself, and I'm like realizing that I was I was just showing alcoholic behavior, and I didn't want to really change it because there was a part of me that I don't know was comfortable. But then when I was told to stop and I couldn't, it really stopped being fun. It's this really stopped being fun. But then being sober was tough too, and going to the rooms of AA. My very first sponsor, when I told him my story, and he was like, "Well, you only like really like smoke weed, and you don't do a lot of other stuff, so you're not really an addict. And like, you still have a job and all that." So because I wasn't down and out, and yeah, so needless to say, I talked to another friend. We talked to another guy, and then me and him started talking, and we just instantaneously clicked like as if we knew each other for a long time. But I didn't tell him that I was trans, and I feel like if you're gonna do a program like that, you want to be honest. Like the program is basically based on honesty and spirituality. So I was like, "Yo, bro, I'm gonna tell you something, and I hope that this doesn't change our relationship. But I just want you to know that I happen to be a trans guy. And this is my story, blah blah blah." And he laughed. He's like, "That's it." And so it happened to be that his mom was one of the nurses on the first gender reassignment surgery. I'm sorry, sex reassignment surgery ever. I was like, "Oh, okay, so he's not new to this. Perfect." Um, how I achieved the level of sobriety, I'll be super honest and transparent. It wasn't only going to meetings, and possibly I barely ever go. How I stay connected is really I talk to my sponsor a whole lot, and I talk to other people who are in my same shoes, because we speak a language that only each other understand. That's why it's important to talk to other people who are also in recovery and seeking uh, to not drink and drugs, seeking a better lifestyle for themselves. it is not easy to be sober. I don't care how long you. I funny. I find like the first year of sobriety was the hardest year for me. It was the hardest. The second not so bad. The third and the fourth year I was like kind of coasting. The fifth year, you're like, oh wow. And they say the fifth year of sobriety, you get your head out of your butt. So, yeah, and you do. Like I remember sitting down year five and kind of like just looking at myself again out from outside of I'm like, oh wow, dude, you really changed a lot. You're not. I mean, you're not depressed half as much. You don't cry half as much. You don't freak out at stuff. You just kind of like handle your business. You know, you have a relationship. You had a relationship at that time. It was like I had had a relationship for about 3 or 4 years, and I think we only fought like really fought like argued, like once, and it was over something dumb, and it was like I was learning to communicate better. Like I was doing really well for myself. There was money in my bank account. Like whoa, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. That was year five. So now I'm on year 12. I am in a really good spot. I will tell you that it is still hard to stay sober to this very day. It's not easy. It's I still get cravings from my very rarely, you know, 12 years later, and sometimes in certain situations I have to take myself out of it because it's like, whoa, like I can be around people when they're drinking and have a good time, but there's a limit to that. I personally don't like being around people who are like in a certain like zone. You know, I can't do that. I don't judge them because they're not me, and that's not their poison. You know, so they can do it and have a good time, go back, get up tomorrow, and be okay, and not be looking for the next fix. You know, but for me, that's a no, big no. So, but it's been 12 years. It's been a ride, man. It's been a ride. I remember reading a Rolling Stone article with Ozzy Osbourne, him saying that like sobriety was like the wildest ride ever, and then I agree. I agree. I totally think sobriety is the wildest ride ever. Being in recovery is a gift. It is the hardest thing I do sometimes every day to stay sober, but it's also the most rewarding. And sometimes people ask me like, what keeps me sober now, especially after it's been so long. You know, like, oh, you can go back. I'm like, why would I go back? One, and I don't want to ever see the look on my mom's face, honestly, of disappointment if she ever knew that I had a relapse. So if you ask me what keeps me clean today, it's avoiding the look of disappointment on my mom's face, who I love and who I adore. To why would I go back to something that wasn't as good as what I have now? You know, for a moment of like to get high or to be drunk or to be whatever. I can simply just enjoy and I can enjoy life without the need of enhancements, and that in itself is a gift. I have the love of my life, uh, who I am moving forward with starting a family. I have my own business in which I have my problems are how to scale. You know, I I have a car that I brought that I paid for. That's a big deal for me. Roof over my head that I help pay for. You know, I am the man of two houses. Take care of a family now. So, and I wouldn't have been able to do those things if I was getting drunk and high every day the way I was. So I know this video is about 15 minutes long, so if you stayed for the end, thank you. Thank you for staying. Guys, if you think that my story and my videos could help someone else, share this with them. Let them see this particular one and that we do recover. You have the best day ever.